Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Forward with Forli Friday podcast with your hosts, Jake and Forli. And this piece of content is designed to explore some of the guide dog lifestyle concepts more in depth, as well as to highlight things that I'm not able to capture on video. I will still be creating videos for the Forward with Forli YouTube channel, so stay tuned for more of those. I've got a whole list of things to try and cover, so I'm really excited about that. And this is really a combination podcast, discussion, Q&A session. And the idea is, again, to try to address questions and as well as explore some of the guide dog lifestyle concepts more in depth. So with that, we're going to get started with our topic, which for today will be, how do I know that a guide dog is right for me? This is a very valid question and is kind of a hard question to answer. So I'm going to get right into it. If you like this podcast, feel free to hit that like button, share it, spread the word, share with your social media networks. If you have suggestions or comments about today's podcast, leave them in the comments below. I appreciate all the interaction and feedback that you as the audience members provide. So how do I know a guide dog is right for me? That's a great question. It's definitely one that you're going to have to answer on your own. But with that, I can give you some pointers. When I was exploring the guide dog lifestyle for the first time, I really struggled with this question, and I didn't really know. To be honest, it was an educated guess for me. When I came down to making a decision, I just sort of took a bit of a leap of faith and just kind of went for it. And it was a bit stressful for me because I definitely wanted a more solid answer whether I thought it was a good fit. So the first tip I'm going to suggest is to be really honest with yourself. This is one of the few times I would recommend you be self-centered. This is all about you right now when you're talking about this topic. Make sure that you're thinking about you and your lifestyle and what's going to be best for you. So be a little self-centered and be honest. Really think about your lifestyle. Really think about, is this the right fit? You might have people that are recommending this. You might have friends that have guide dogs that think you should get one. When it comes down to it, it's really up to you and what's going to be best for you. The second thing I'm going to recommend is do some research. Learn the differences between a guide dog and a cane as far as mobility is concerned. Things are a bit different when you use a guide dog versus when you use a cane. Now, I will do an entire podcast on guide dog versus cane in another episode, so I won't go into that today. Spoiler alert, they are equal tools. So if you're looking for a podcast on one's going to be better than the other, that's not going to be it. They really are equal tools. So learn about the differences between a dog and a cane, and kind of make a list of those and get those in your head, and then think about your own travel needs, wants, interests, and struggles. What is right now, what is hard for you right now? Or what do you find to be kind of a hassle in your travel experiences? Do you find the fact that you're touching the ground annoying? Do you find the fact that you need constant contact? Think about all the things that you're struggling with right now that maybe a dog can help with. A dog is really just another philosophy. A guide dog and guide dog travel is just another philosophy on orientation and mobility. It's just another way to get around. So kind of make a couple lists, maybe keep a small journal of your experiences or some bulleted lists. Pro-con lists are really good for this sort of thing. And just, again, kind of start building up some knowledge and overlaying these different pieces of knowledge that I'm giving you and seeing if you can kind of pull out a pattern or a trend in all of this. And the next thing I'm going to say is talk to different people that have had guide dogs, and find out what it is that they like, why they chose to have a dog versus a cane. Now, of course, this is going to be very subjective. Everybody's going to have a different reason. Um, so, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. Just because they got a dog, doesn't mean that you should get a dog necessarily, or not. But it's always good to have feedback from other people, and it might help inspire you to make the decision. And remember too that having a guide dog is a 24/7 experience. Right now, if you're using a cane, you would come home and maybe you set it in the corner behind the door, in the closet, or wherever, and you forget about it until you need it again. A guide dog definitely doesn't let you forget about them. They are designed to fit into people's lives relatively easily. Guide dogs are pretty easy to handle as far as a dog is concerned. I mean, sure, they're active and that sort of thing, but they're well trained. They have refined skills and behaviors, and they're designed to be sort of a refined animal because of all of the work that they do in public. But think about that. You're going to not only be traveling with this dog, you're going to be having to, of course, provide all the necessary things that you would for any living being. So food, water, shelter, health care, psychological support and stimulation, social exposure, playing with the dog, interacting with the dog. They really don't appreciate just coming home and having their harness off and then you ignoring them for the evening. They really are an animal that wants to be with you. Dogs bond with humans, and guide dogs are no exception. Excuse me. So you want to think about, is that something you want to contend with in your life? Do you want to have a dog with you? Now, that doesn't mean that they're completely under your feet all the time. I mean, a lot of times, Forli is just hanging out, chewing on a bone, or we're playing tug while I'm watching TV, or getting dinner ready, or playing fetch, what have you. Sometimes she's just hanging out by herself, too, and that's fine. But the idea is that we're always interacting at some level. Whether we're playing or whether she wants a bone, and so I get her bone and she plays with that, or we just sit there and I'm just calmly petting her, or maybe we'll go for a small walk, or grooming. That's kind of another social activity in some respects. So think about that, and a way to do this is you can dog sit for somebody. Now it's not a complete accurate picture of what it will be like to have a guide dog, because a pet dog may or may not be well trained. So it might actually be more work with the pet dog or not, but it'll give you the idea of what it's like to have to be aware of the dog, what they're doing, kind of at all times, taking care of them and being responsible for another living being. So this is a big one. This really is something that you want to think about. Now, are there people that get dogs and that aren't dog lovers? Absolutely. Are they successful? Yes. I think for best results, myself, I would really think about how much you do like dogs. I mean, if you don't like dogs at all, getting a guide dog might not be the greatest experience for you. If you're like, yeah, I tolerate dogs, they're not my favorite animal, but I don't hate them, then maybe continue thinking about getting a guide dog. And again, you have to make the decision. All the stuff I'm giving you here today has just been a mix of my experience, other experiences of people I've spoke to, and it's just kind of some guidelines. So just keep this stuff in mind as you're going through. You're the one that needs to make the decision on your own. This is just another avenue for providing some information. Talking with people is a really big thing. Talking to people who have had dogs, guide dogs specifically, is really helpful, and they can provide some insight into what to expect when having a dog. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is, what is your lifestyle like? What is your travel demands? Do you travel independently some of the time, all the time, none of the time? Do you take public transit? Um, are you in unfamiliar areas a lot? Are you in familiar areas? Do you have 2 or 3 routes? Do you have any routes? Um, and really think about that, and what you're gonna be getting out of a dog. Guide dogs, for the most part, are what we call route travelers, meaning they want to get to a destination. They're very destination oriented. And that isn't to say that you can't take your dog out on a leisurely, walking trail through a park or a hiking trail, and you walk out so far and turn around and come back, or just go for a loop around the neighborhood. That's fine. They're happy with that too. But they're really happy when they have a destination. And so it is important that you give them enough work to keep them satisfied. These dogs want to do the work. Guide dogs are trained to do the work, but they also are the ones that decide, yeah, I want to do this work. The dogs aren't really forced into it. If a dog refuses to take the training as a guide dog, they're dropped from most guide dog programs. That's a pretty common practice throughout the guide dog industry. So the dogs want to do this, and so they are looking to you to give them the opportunity to get out there and be a guide dog. So if your lifestyle is such where you don't really have any routes, you're just going from home to a car which is parked in the driveway, or a vehicle to every destination, and then you get out and you get sighted guide around and then back into the car and back home. That there's really not much work for a guide dog there. Not to say that if you do use a car service or paratransit that you can't use a dog. Some people will use paratransit or a taxi or something, get to a place, run their errands. They might have 2 or 3 destinations they go to, and then they take the paratransit or a car service back home. That's okay too. But think about how much work you can give the dog. And one common thing that people will say to me is, I don't have any routes right now, but I'll tell you what, when I get my guide dog, I'm going to walk everywhere. I'll take that dog out and go everywhere. And this is partially true. I believe that these people are partially honest. But let's face it, pick a habit that you do. It could be any habit or routine. How hard is it for you to alter that routine? It probably takes some serious thought and some effort to change the way you do things. Habits are hard to break, and so that's why I think this sort of claim that, yeah, I'll take the dog for a walk all the time, even though I don't have routes right now, is only partially true, because I think a lot of it has to do with having routes established already. If they say they're going to take the dog, but if they don't have anything already, they may not even like route traveling. They may not like to go out and use a cane and be an independent traveler. They may enjoy or have the money or the means to take a car service everywhere. And so I really recommend that you start establishing routes and establishing some travel assignments for your dog, so that when you get the dog, you have somewhere to go with the dog and you're not trying to learn all that. And most guide dog schools will require you to have some form of travel routes. I mean, that's the point of a guide dog, first and foremost, is to be a travel assistant. They are there to support you with your travel needs. So they really do need to have something to do. A bored guide dog is a guide dog that gets in trouble. They're very smart, they have active minds and active bodies, and if they don't have enough to do, that's when habits start to form. That's when things like chewing your shoes start happening. So you want to keep them busy, you want to give them something to do and give them a purpose in life, because if you don't, they'll find their own purpose. And if that purpose is chewing up your shoes and laying on your couch, that might not be what you want, and that's not healthy. So really start thinking about the types of routes that you're going to be doing, and start establishing those, because the last thing you want to do is get the dog and then you're like, okay, I have to take this dog out for a walk, And then you find out, you know what, I hate this type of traveling. I don't like independent travel. I don't want to do this, or this isn't what I want to do with my life right now. This isn't my lifestyle. Why would I do this when I can um, do it a different way and it works just fine? And but now you have this dog, and so you're under a little bit of emotional pressure to do something because you feel bad that the poor dog doesn't have anything to do. So save yourself a lot of headache and just start thinking about routes if you don't have any right now. This is a big one, and this is a reason that a lot of people that go to apply to a guide dog school sometimes run into challenges that they might not have that established already. So think about this sort of stuff because it really does depend on your lifestyle. Now, guide dogs can be adapted to fit a variety of lifestyles, anything from high school age student up to someone in their 80s or 90s who's retired. But they all have one thing in common, and that is that they have independent travel routes that they use. Now, some dogs are really good with 3 or 4 or 5 routes, and that's what they like. They're happy with that. They're totally fine. Some dogs love to just go everywhere. They want something new every day. It's got to it has to be a change for them to stay stimulated. And so there is, and everything in between. Those are kind of the extremes. There's everything in between that. So there really is a lot of variation, and there is a lot of different lifestyles that a dog can fit into. But the main points that you want to think about if a dog is right for you are what I've discussed in my talk today. This stuff is really important, and this is what the schools are going to be asking, and this is really what you should be asking yourself. So to recap, be honest, get people's opinion, but also be a little self-centered. Think about what your needs are. Think about your routes. Think about your lifestyle. Learn the differences between a dog and a cane, and have fun exploring this. It's a really exciting thing to explore, and it is a really great way to travel. I really enjoy it, even though it does have its challenges and its ups and downs. It's been a lot of fun. So I thank you for listening today. Again, feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate the support, and stay tuned for the next podcast.